Hello everybody, this is Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-minute histories videos. And today we're going to talk about Evergreen House on North Charles Street. And I'm out here in front of the front gates, both because they're gorgeous front gates, but also because the house and grounds are closed to the public due to COVID. So that's the world we live in, and we get by the best we can here. I'd like to start by saying thank you to a gentleman, Richard Messick, for putting the information together for this video. Thanks, Richard. And let's jump into Evergreen House. It would be ludicrous to think that we could do a one video and cover all of Evergreen House and its history and its artworks. We're going to break it into two, which is still pretty ludicrous, but maybe not quite as much. And today we're going to talk about the house and a lot of its history, but we're going to save the artwork, and in particular one Garrett family member who lived here, Alice Warder Garrett. We're going to save her and the artwork story for another video. So the house was built in 1857 for a family, the Broadbent family. It joined other country estates a few miles north of Baltimore. And the Broadbents kept it for about 20 years. But in 1878, I believe, a young gentleman named T. Harrison Garrett and his wife, Alice, became the owners. Garrett was from the Garrett family of Baltimore. His grandfather, Robert, had come over from Ireland in the early 1800s and started an investment banking firm, the Robert Garrett Company, later the Robert Garrett and Sons. That was the same era that another Baltimorean, Alexander Brown, had started an investment bank that became known as America's first investment bank, Alex Brown and Sons. His father, that was the grandfather. His father was John Work Garrett, who expanded the family fortune as the head of the B&O Railroad. And John was pretty generous with his kids. He had the family's banking company buy this house for T. Harrison and Alice. For his other son, Robert, he gave as a wedding present a mansion on Mount Vernon Place that we now call the Garrett Jacobs Mansion, or the Engineers Club. And his third child, daughter, Mary Elizabeth Garrett, she inherited part of the family fortune that she used to found the Bryn Mawr School for Girls here, to prop up financially Bryn Mawr College, and to help the Johns Hopkins University start a medical school on the condition that it let in women on equal footing as men. We did a video on her several months ago. So T. Harrison and Alice get this house, and they do some major upgrades. They expand the front entrance hall, for example, to be really a magical place. I think Victorian eclectic architecture or design is the style. Moorish tiles on the floor, Renaissance tapestries hanging from the walls, Tiffany chandeliers hanging from the ceilings. In the reception room, they expand it to include an enormous mahogany mantle to keep their guests warm in the winter, done by the noted artisan Lockwood de Forest. If you don't know his name, but you ever got to eat at the Brass Elephant on Mount Vernon on Charles Street, you'll know his work. Really fantastic woodwork there as well. They built an addition that has a bowling alley. This is the 1880s. They built a bowling alley and a billiards room. And on top of that is a gymnasium and classroom for their kids. They were as serious about physical education as about academic education. And they did pretty well. Both of their sons graduated from Princeton, and one, Robert, went on to win gold medals in the discus and the shot put in the first modern Olympics in Athens in 1896. So they do the addition, and the third thing they do is they upgrade the bathroom. And upgrade is too small a word for it. They tile the entire floor, all of the walls and the ceiling in unfinished marble. They gild all of the woodwork in 23 karat gold, and they add a baccarat hand-cut vase for a decorative piece that kind of ties it all together. So really wonderful. But tragically, T. Harrison dies in 1888 in a boating accident on the Chesapeake Bay. His widow, Alice, moves out for a while with her family, but moves back in and continues the upgrades, including creating a wonderful terrace garden in the back. So come on out in the spring when it's hopefully open, take a look at that. She dies in 1920, and their oldest son, John Work Garrett, who gets his name from his grandfather, the president of the B&O, inherits the house and moves in with his wife, whose name is also Alice. She is Alice Warder Garrett, who we'll talk about in her connection with the art world in our second video, so stay tuned. John Work Garrett is a diplomat. He got his start in 1901 when President McKinley appointed him to join the diplomatic corps at The Hague. He worked under 5 different presidents, serving in places like Berlin, where he met his wife Alice, South America, and Paris, leading up to and including the early years of World War I, where one of his jobs was to check on prisoners of war camps to make sure they were doing what they should do. Alice did her part for the American cause, volunteering for the Red Cross, among other things. But they did not neglect Evergreen. They returned here often, and in later years returned here, and did some other fabulous renovations. One, they turned the gymnasium into a theater, which we'll talk about in our second video. And second is they turned an 1880s octagon conservatory that John's father had built into a library. They commissioned Lawrence Hall Fowler, the noted architect, in 1932. If you know some of the really wonderful houses in the Guilford neighborhood, odds are the ones you're thinking of. He did a good chunk of those. So he was one of the most prominent architects of his day. They commissioned him to build this library, and he built at the same time what is one of the most lavishly grand spaces and also a very intimate space. It is wonderful with big windows that let in natural light. Wonderful parquet paneling and bookshelves from floor to ceiling, including one of those ladders that runs on little rollers that you can roll along and then climb up to get to the top shelf, the books on the top shelf. John and Alice used it to relax and to entertain, but also to showcase some of John's collections. He had been a collector all his life, including rare manuscripts. And so with the new library, he found a home for things like some of the Shakespeare folios that he had from the 1600s. They live in the house until John dies in 1942, and then Alice dies in 1952. And they turn it over to Hopkins University, the house and the grounds. And the collection of artwork that's in the house gets turned over to a private foundation. And that's how it operates today, but a partnership between the foundation and the university. And it is a house museum that is normally open to the public, and again, encourage you to come and take a tour. But it's more than a house, more than a historic house. It is a wonderful place that celebrates art and artists with concert series, with revolving exhibits, and with direct sponsorship to young up-and-coming artists in a way that I think the Garretts, both generations who lived here, would be proud of. So I'll leave it at that and say thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for part 2 of this series next time. Take care.